Exactly right. And the trainers that are dominating out there, they are doing the things that no one else is willing to do, and that's why they're making the big bucks. But people just seem busy on the gym floor and just be like, well, they're just always just training people. It's like, yeah, but how do they get to that point where they're on 40 to 50 sessions per week? You know what they did at the start? They did lead gen, got names and numbers, booked people in, and they're most likely tracking all those stats.
Alrighty, we've got lots to talk about, starting mainly with where trainers are starting and some good questions to ask in terms of how to work out the best place for you to go to start, because the start is so important. And for a lot of people, when they don't get the start right, they don't give themselves a second chance. How many times have we seen trainers, really great trainers and coaches, come through, they've got their qualifications, they've started in a club, and it hasn't worked out for them in that first club, and next thing they've decided that the industry's not for them. Like that starting point is so important. How do you choose the best club?
Yeah, I think first thing, I agree with that as well. And I told you the other day how I was training at a particular club, and I saw an ex-student from NHFA, and they'd chosen that club, and the club's not very busy, and it wasn't really a great mentorship there. And he lasted 6 months, and now he's no longer in the industry. But when he went through as a student, he was a great trainer, honestly. He was really personable, but also had really good technical skills as well. And I was actually trying to bring him down to Robina, trying to get him to come from Logan to Robina, and ended up not. And unfortunately, no longer in the industry, which is a bit of a shame. So it does happen.
Well, it kills me because number one, he's a great guy. And number two, he was actually a really good trainer. So technical, as a technician, he was great. The one thing he was really missing is obviously the managerial skills, the understanding of the systems, the processes, and all of those kind of things that you really rely on for your personal training manager. And then he's chosen a club because that club was convenient to him, right? It's near where he lived, which makes sense a lot of the time. That's why a lot of people make that decision. However, you rock up there and then you've got your mentor now, and that mentor, or the personal training manager in his case, was it's pretty ordinary. Let's say that.
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't got people showing you systems that you can use in your business, and not only systems you can use in your business, but also kicking your ass when you need as well. If you haven't done something, you need to go and do this. This is important. This is what's going to drive your business forward. Also, if you've got questions, little questions that you're not sure about the answer, if you have someone quickly you can go to, they can give you those answers. So I think choosing a health club, a big part of choosing a health club is who your mentor is going to be. And if you do happen to choose a health club where you're not going to have a mentor, then you need to seek out a mentor, someone who's been there before, basically a person who's been where you want to go to. So, have they built a 6-figure business and beyond? Have they done this type of training before? Have they done this type of training? Can they help me with online, small groups, one-on-one? So I think choosing a mentor's probably one of the biggest things you're going to be choosing whenever you start out, because anyone who starts somewhere new, you're not an expert, are you?
Well, you're an apprentice, and now you're looking to learn off someone that has done, just like you said, has done something that you want to do. So if you look at that person and you go, you know what, I can't see how that person's going to help me get to a 6-figure income. What are the skills, what knowledge am I lacking in, and what do I need from a mentor? And if that person doesn't have those things, well, where do you think they're going to come from? Yeah,
exactly. So I'd recommend just first interviewing at a whole different bunch of clubs. If you've got a certain area that you want to start in, I'd be interviewing at multiple clubs, because once you start interviewing with different people, I think it's going to become a lot clearer on who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. Also, if you're ever doing courses like through NHFA, because obviously we've got a lot of course coaches with a lot of experience, you actually ask around. Who's the experts in the area? What sort of business have they run? Rather than just going to speak to one person, and then from that one person you make a quick decision, I'm just going to start at this club because you feel pressured. There's no pressure. You can start whenever you want at any club really that you choose. So visiting multiple clubs, and before I even interview them, I'd be actually just training at the club first before you even do an interview.
Well, the disadvantage of doing it online is that you've got no course coaches or mentors to be asking questions about where would be the best place for me to start. Hey, knowing my skill sets and what I have, and also understanding what I'm lacking, where would you say would be a good place for me to start? Do you know any really great PT managers that would be able to help me? As opposed to, if you're doing a face-to-face course, or at least a blended option, you've got great course coaches that can lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. And in a lot of states, the actual industry's not that big. So people will have a reputation or a good name, and they'll know if they know what they're talking about or not. But before I chose any club, I always trained at them first straight away, because when I train at them first, you get a feel for how busy the club is. So is it busy on the gym floor? So the busier the club for me, I think, is probably better, because you want to know that there's going to be a big pool of people to choose from. I'm also looking around at the personal trainers. Are the personal trainers actually busy? Not only is it a busy gym, but is there trainers doing sessions? If there's trainers doing sessions, a lot of trainers doing initial consultations, that's a fair indication that there is a good culture of PT within the club. They're the first things I'm looking at, especially if you know what your target market is. All right, is my target market within this club? So, for example, if you specialise in bodybuilding, maybe you might go to a club that's more geared towards bodybuilding. If you're more general population, it might be more of a family-friendly club. If I'm specialising in mums, all right, I'm going to train there after school drop-off, see if my target market's there. So knowing who you want to specialise in, and is that target market at that club, is the club busy, and are the trainers busy, are some things I'm going to be looking out for straight away. So what do you look for when you're looking at a club?
Well, first of all, I think I'm a big one for feel. So I walk into a club and I know I kind of get a good feel for it, or I don't. Now, there's only been one campus I've ever started where I went in and went, I don't know about this place. And I felt like my options were fairly limited because it was in an area that I liked, but the club itself I didn't really like. And we started there, and mate, that's the only one that's ever really not worked. And that's just it just didn't have a good feel to it. And I feel like I felt that, and most of the coaches, including yourself, would walk in there and go, yeah. And it just didn't have the right feel. So I don't know exactly when people say, well, what is the right feel? Well, here's a couple of things. Now, the first thing I would be looking for as a trainer is the club busy? And is the club really busy? Now, if the club's really busy and it's got a good feel to it, a good energy, and there's lots of opportunities there. And ironically, though, a lot of trainers will say to me, yeah, Dave, but what happens is that it gets too busy. It's almost like too busy at 5 or 6 o'clock, and I find it really challenging to get on equipment. Well, you've got two problems. The first problem is I've got no clients, but I've got a big gym that's empty that I can train anyone on any piece of equipment. Or the other alternative is have a busy as hell club, lots of clients, and I just find it a little challenging to get on some of the equipment sometimes. Which problem would you take? And I think that's where, once again, having a good mentor, giving you good questions like that, you can sort of sit there and go, well, I'll take the busy club every day of the week. I mean, if my biggest problem is that I've got lots of clients and I just find it a little challenging to get on some of the equipment at some point of time in the days, then you take that problem.
Yeah, exactly. And probably a lot of new trainers, they intuitively think I'll go to a smaller club that's a little bit quieter and I'll just learn my craft. And the only problem is you go there and there's just no one to train there. You can't generate any business. There's not enough leads. Whereas the big club, it might be a little bit scarier, but it's busy, there's plenty of people to choose from, there's plenty of members that are going to be watching you, so that you're going to be able to demonstrate your skills and your personality. And also as well, if you're at a busier club, there's going to be more trainers, so you're going to learn. So you're going to look around, you're going to see 5-star trainers, because all the best trainers are at the busiest clubs where they can make the most money. So you're going to be learning off outstanding trainers, and you'll start to watch them, see what they do, how they generate business, which helps as well.
The biggest mistake that young trainers who are just about to start in a big health club make is choosing a place based on the amount of rent per week. And looking at the rent factor, now for most health clubs around the country, it's going to be somewhere between $3 and $350. Now, if you look at some of the bigger clubs and the Melbourne club, the campus down there, I think it's $450 a week. Now, it sounds like a lot, but when you look at, well, my earning capacity is probably $80 a session. Now, how many sessions do you need to do to break even? Well, half a dozen. So by midday on a Monday, you've paid for your rent. Now you're at a really great location with lots of people coming through, and then you're earning money for the other 4 days. I mean, don't just base your don't base your decision on, well, how much rent am I going to have to pay each week? Because the higher the rent, the more earning capacity you've normally got in that club.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, 5 sessions is actually not that hard to get to in any club, and then you've got rent covered. So, and you've got 12 weeks to get there anyway, so it's not like you're going to be paying rent from day one. So yeah, I'd definitely be going for a bigger, busier club would be my first choice straight away. And then from there, like I said, train at a whole bunch of them, and it doesn't have to be in the same location that you live in. So I wouldn't want to be travelling too far.
Yeah.
But if you're within 20 minutes of your club, that is fine because you're going to be doing some split shifts. So finding somewhere, the best club that's within that sort of limit, that's busy, is really good. I would train at them all first before you start interviewing so you can get a feel for it yourself. And then what I would do is I'd interview at about 4 or 5 different clubs that you're interested in.
And if you want a massive leap up, start at a brand new club. If you can start at a new club, because then you've got 2,000 members that are just getting started. Now, they've all generally been either given or purchased the Jumpstart or the Kickstart, the 2 or 3 PT sessions at a discounted rate. So if they've invested in that, so you've probably got, I would assume, 30, 40, maybe even 50 leads sitting there ready to go. Now, even if you're converting at a really low rate, 1 out of every, 5, you've probably got yourself, you're breaking even before you even start from your first month. So if you can, when there is a brand new club, and especially at any of the bigger health clubs like your Good Lifes or your Fitness Firsts, your MFs and all those kind of places, then that would be a really good place to start. If you get into a brand new club,
you can have a great business within a month at a new club for sure. And all the equipment's brand new, all the members are super excited to be there. The advertising that's been going on for the last 6 months by the club would be, obviously a lot more than what they'd generally be doing.
And new clubs take members from other clubs because people have been training somewhere for 3, 4, 5 years, and not that they're sick of it, but a change of scenery is good sometimes. So people are like, you know what, that's just as convenient, that club over there, I might go and train there. And then you've got the opportunity to take some of those guys as well. Yeah,
and then when you started a club, in your interviews as well, just asking some smart questions as well. So the one thing you have to be careful of is you don't want to start interrogating the manager because then you'll turn them off for sure. So you need to sit there, answer all the questions that they want to ask you. So let them have their time for whatever it is, the 20 minutes or half an hour. But if you have some opportunities to ask questions, I would be asking questions about how the leads work, how many trainers they've got, how many new memberships they sign. They may not be wanting to give you a lot of information, and that's fine, completely fine. So don't be rude about it, but just say, if you don't mind, can I ask you a few questions just about the amount of trainers and how leads work. If they're open to that information, I think that's a good sign. Anytime where they're a bit wishy-washy and they don't want to give you certain information, probably because they're a little embarrassed to talk about it because it's not great information. So I was always proud of our club. I was like, yes, this is the amount of members we have this amount of trainers, this is how many leads you can expect per month. And I'd never sugarcoat it. You still got to work your ass off.
Well, the other thing is when you start at a club, where you'll be getting most of your leads from will be from the kickstarts. So what you're really looking for is not just how many members in a club, it's how many new members are getting started in that club per month. So let's say there's 200 members a month, and the membership guys are selling around about 50%, so 50% kickstarts or jump starts, and then those leads are then dispersed over the newer trainers generally. So a good question to ask when you're first starting is, well, how many new jump starts or kickstarts could I expect on a weekly or monthly basis? And you'll get a bit of an idea then of what your growth should be. So if you're getting, say, let's chuck a figure at 6 a week, and you're converting 2 out of the 6, then you know that you're generally building your income by $150 to $200 a week.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of those gym leads, the intro PT packs that are sold, I would be asking questions about, hey, are we allowed to do our own advertising? Are we allowed to promote on the social pages or the social groups of the club? Because you don't want to have your hands tied behind your back about what marketing you can do yourself.
Yep.
So you want to have the option to be able to do some in-club promotion like promo stands, lead boxes, signage around the club, signage in change rooms, stuff like that.
And lists, mate, can you tell us a little bit about the lists of names and numbers that you can generally get if you're a in-club trainer that you can jump on and call on a weekly basis?
Yeah, definitely. So most clubs will have this, like obviously part of Good Life they had it, so that you could create member lists. So they have member lists of what's called missing in action, members that hadn't been to the club in the last 4 weeks. You'd have a call list of birthdays, so members whose birthdays they were, and then you'd have service calls. So members that had signed up 3 months ago, you could give a service call and try and book them in for like a goal setting session. And the name, it's an unlimited list. So you're never going to get through the whole list. So you can sit there and you've got scripts there that you can use, but it's better to take a script, rework it into your own personality and language. So you get your own script, you get script ready, And you can sit there and call as many people as you want, and you're just ringing to book people in. It's not the most glamorous work in the world, but it's something you can do immediately to get a lead. It's something you go, you know what, if I sit there and just work on this for the next 2 hours, I can generate 4 or 5 leads, and I could be training someone tomorrow.
Well, here's the mistake most trainers make, because they go, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to create this video of me doing some exercise, and I want to post it on social media because that I like doing that stuff, and I think that's going to get me leads. When generally it doesn't. I mean, if you ultimately what you're trying to do, even by posting that video, is get someone reaching out to you to say, hey, I might be interested. So you've got a list of numbers that are already, of people that are in club that are already interested. Why are you jumping on the phone and getting onto that? But yeah, the real success comes from those that are willing to jump on the phones. And the better you get at that, and I've always said to our guys going through, if they're like, Dave, what do you think would be really good, a good job for me to be able to do if I'm looking for work or part-time work at the moment, or even full-time work? What would you suggest I do while I'm doing the course? And ultimately, I think the best decision you could make is become a membership consultant in the clubs. Why? What you're getting to do is you're getting to build your skill sets. You're getting to hear firsthand from people that are joining the gyms what their goals are, what they're most scared of, what they're looking for in terms of would you be interested in a personal trainer? No, I wouldn't. Tell me why not. And they'll tell you all the reasons that they don't want a PT. What if the PT then was this, and this? Oh yeah, I'd be open to it. So then you're actually, it's almost like market research. You're getting paid to do it. You're getting great practice on the phone, and you're getting the opportunity to present to people a couple of different options in terms of memberships, just like you would as a PT. I mean, if that's not the ultimate apprenticeship and you're getting paid to do it, it's almost like instead of going and paying to do a sales course, you're getting paid to do it. And that's the one thing that I went back and did. Back in the day, 2009 it was, when I knew that my sales skills weren't good enough, especially as I was starting to run the courses a lot more. So I went and did membership consulting on the side, and then I was running my courses.
Exactly right. And as you know, doing the membership consultant, you're going to have daily targets that you need to hit as well, and how many calls you've got to make. So it forces you to get into the habit of making calls, obviously asking for point of sale referrals as well. So yeah, it's a really great role. And most personal trainers, they even, like as mentors, we explain it to them. Like all your sales, all your bookings are going to be done on the phone. So you need to get good on the phone. If you do any online personal training, all your sales are done on the phone. So people underestimate how important the phone is, and it's going to be your best weapon into generating business. But what they do is, rather than focus on lead gen and sales calls, they'll focus on branding and content creation, which is not to say that's not important, it is, but that should make up like 20% of your time, and 80% of your time should be on lead generation and making sales calls. But usually it's the opposite way around, isn't it? It's 80% on I want to make workout videos and recipe videos, and 20% of me actually picking up the phone and booking someone in.
Yep, exactly right. I think conversion rates become really important, because then you can actually really narrow down and work out which part's not working. So if we're really honest, and we've done this many times with the guys, and they'll sit there and go, what I'm really lacking is I need more clients at the moment. So my income's not where I want it to be, or my client base is not where it wants to be, or where I want it to be. And then the ultimate question is, how many consultations did you do this week? And if the answer is 0, well then how did you possibly expect to have more new clients this week? And then the next question would be, I didn't do any consultations. Why not? Why didn't you do any consultations? And it'll always be because I didn't make enough phone calls. So I did maybe 3 or 4 calls. Well, based on your conversion rate, that you probably need to be making 8 to 10 to be able to set one appointment for that person to come in. So if you're not doing at least 10 calls to set one appointment, then how did you expect to get a new client? So it might be, I need to do 30 or 40 calls per week. And the better you get at calls, then the better you get at setting appointments. The more people that come in for appointments, then the more clients that you're going to get on a weekly basis. It's not rocket science. It's just going back and doing the things that you really don't want to be doing. Most trainers will say, yeah, but I don't want to do the phone calls. I just want to do the training. It's almost like saying, taking up a game like, I don't know, the game of rugby league, and going, yeah, but I don't really want to do the tackling. Yeah, you might not want to do it, but it's part of the game. And there's different positions where you won't have to do as much tackling, but you're still going to have to do some if the ball comes your way. So for trainers, it's not just about looking at things that you're really enjoying or that you like doing. Where a lot of the success comes from is doing the things that you don't feel like doing on a weekly basis. Exactly
right. And the trainers that are dominating out there, they are doing the things that no one else is willing to do, and that's why they're making the big bucks. But people just seem busy on the gym floor and just be like, well, they're just always just training people. It's like, yeah, but how did they get to that point where they're on 40 to 50 sessions per week? You know what they did at the start? They did lead gen, got names and numbers, booked people in, and they're most likely tracking all those stats. So they were most likely tracking like their conversion rate, their show rate as well, how many people are actually showing up for their consultations, how many people they're booking in on the phone, and then how many leads they're getting per week. So they're being clear on what their numbers are, and when you're clear on those numbers, like you just mentioned, you can plan ahead. You know exactly what you need to do every single week to get to your goal in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is.
Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And which part of that chain, which part of that strategy is letting me down? So if it's a consultation part, then that's where you sit down with your coach and your mentor and you go through, okay, what am I doing well here and what do I really need to work on? Because the better you get at that, then once again, the higher the conversion rate. So unless you start tracking your numbers, then you don't really know. The other thing I find is that trainers and coaches really love the sound of, I've got my own business. But they want to do most of the things in the business. You know, I want to have my own business. Great. What do you love about having your own business? Oh, the flexibility, the freedoms, but all of that shit comes from when you've done all of the other work. You know, is getting in and learning your trade is about, most of the time, it's jumping on the phones. It's, you know, if you want to build a business or you have to get leads in, then you develop, you convert your leads to regular investing clients, and you've got your customer service. There's a number of things that you've got to be doing well on a regular basis. It's not showing people how to deadlift, how to bench, how to chin.
No, exactly right. And as you just mentioned, once you're doing all those things that people don't want to do, so all the like the lead gen and checking your conversion rates and all that sort of stuff, then you do get to live the life you want to live, and you get the freedom and the flexibility, because what you do is you start to chunk your time. You're like, all right, this time's for lead gen, this time's for training clients. And so that goal that they eventually want to get to, they will get to that more freedom-based lifestyle and flexibility, but not willing to do the work or what needs to be done to get there, unfortunately. Or they might, this is another thing I see as well, just back on calls or lead gen or any sort of marketing, they'll try something once, and if it doesn't work, give up. Yep. Calls don't work, or a promo stand doesn't work, or a lead box doesn't work. I tried it once.
Yep.
It's like,
I think if there's one thing missing, it's persistence and resilience with most new trainers. And their expectations of how fast things should come their way it's mind-blowing. And also, on the opposite side of that, if things aren't working for 2 or 3 weeks, it's almost like they're ready to put the white flag up. Like it's almost like, yeah, Dave, this is, look, I'm really trying at the moment, but I've had 2 really hard weeks. It's like, fucking 2 weeks. That's zero amount of time, you know? If it was 2 months, then you sit there and go, okay, what's not quite working? But we've all had bad days. For most of us, we've had bad weeks. And we know after bad weeks, often will come good weeks. But in business, I feel like without a mentor guiding you and saying, hey, look, it's all right, there's just a few things that we need to change here. You know, there's no need to put the white flag up just yet.
Yeah, and mentors tell you where to focus. Like, the amount of PTs I've mentored where they don't even know, like, just say, for example, they've just gone through a whole bunch of leads. So they did a lot of lead gen, they had a lot coming through, and they've just converted a lot of them. And then they've sort of buried their head in the sand a little bit and like, hey, you're coming to the end of these leads. You've got no hot leads coming through. What you need to focus on right this moment for this week is you need to focus on lead gen. Or like when they put up the white flag, like, hey, if you just do this one thing, you can get some immediate results, and that will just get them past that really difficult part that they were going to give up. Like the amount of students, ex-students and PTs I've mentored that have said to me 12 months in, hey, if you weren't there just guiding me at the start, probably would have given up at least 3 times by now.
Yep.
And we know that once trainers usually eventually get to that 12-month mark, they usually end up staying long term.
Exactly. The first 12 months are so important. And ironically, you know what I find a really scary time for most trainers is around about that 9-month mark. Because what they're now doing is they have hung in there, they've got themselves to a decent point where they've got a decent client base, but all of a sudden they start talking about burnout. And yeah, I just feel like I'm really tired at the moment, I'm getting a bit burnt out. The first thing that I would suggest is have a look at your time and your time management. Are you chunking your time? If you're not chunking your time, it's because you're so scattered and you're not focused in, without a doubt, okay, on a Monday morning, I'm starting at 5 and finishing at 9 with my clients. Then I'm having a break, and from 10 until 12, I'm doing this. Then I might be home and resting. Then at 3 o'clock on a Monday, I'm doing some content, whether that's just some, it might be your thumbnails for your social media, so you're jumping on Canva, and that's for an hour there. Then you're going back to the gym from 5 until, say, 7. Tuesday looks a little bit different. Now, what Tuesday is this. And maybe the next day it's about, scheduling your social media, or it's your blog posts, or it's your whatever you're doing on AI. Maybe Friday mornings has always been finances for me, so I set my finances in there. So it's about chunking your time up so that you don't feel like you're scattered and you're all over the place. That is the single best advice that I can give anyone that's suffering from burnout.
Yeah, and not only do you schedule in all your business, you schedule in your free time too.
Exactly.
When this is time I put down the phone, I don't answer anything, I log out of any apps that I need to, and just have time to yourself. So I 100% agree with all of that, because I do the same thing. I would always have clients in the morning, admin, then there was another session like the mid-morning, then I'd train myself, and then stop. Then come back in the afternoon for afternoon clients. And having that time where you wouldn't work on your business at all, even if you felt like it, you needed that time away, for sure. And I stopped working weekends a long time ago with PT, but even on Saturday, so clients that do trainers that do a Saturday, once you're done with your clients, turn everything off.
Yep.
Have that time to yourself.
Absolutely. I think one thing that really helped me is have a sleep in one morning a week, which was Wednesdays I chose. So when I say sleep in, you start at 7 a.m. It's very different rolling into work when the sun's up as opposed to in the dark every day. And then Thursdays, always just had Thursday evenings where I would finish at 5, and then make sure that you can either have a date night, or you can go late night shopping, or do whatever you want to do so that you've got some sort of lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And you would see trainers all day, and you could tell they weren't chunking their time because, one, they would miss their own training sessions as well, which I think is super important as a trainer. You actually got to be training yourself. But then they'd be trying to come up with content ideas, trying to quickly make it. What time should I post? I might get a quick session in there. I forgot lunch. I've got a client that needs a new program. You're like, no, just have one time a week for your finance, one for your content creation, one for your program writing. Make sure you get your session in. Make sure you get your lunch in, because then you're going to be the best version of you, so you can do better sessions for your clients as well. Clients aren't going to eat up all your time and demand your time. So, yeah.
The other part to that, Phil, is that when you're organised, you're more motivated. I don't care what anyone says. When you're organised and you're focused, then you're more motivated. So when trainers start talking about, I'm just lacking a bit of motivation, I normally can tell that they're a little bit unorganised. And what that allows you to do, I would recommend at least every week at some point, just even for 15 minutes, you do some sort of self-evaluation. Here, we have a report that all of my staff send in, or the team sends in, and they do a self-evaluation. Now, what that means is they look at the week and they rate their performance on a scale of 1 to 10, and it might be 8. And normally they're all high performers, so they're normally all coming in with 8s and 9s, but they're all high performers, which means they never write 10s, because they can work out what they could have done better, where they could have been more time managed. And then what it allows them to do is plan better for next week. So how can I make this week or this next month a lot better? What do I need to focus on? Well, I was a little bit unorganised here, so I need to really chunk my time or block my time better. Maybe it's set alarms so I'm not going over time in certain things. So I think self-analysis is really important for anyone in business. And then also, when do you look at your week? So is it for some trainers and coaches, it might be finishing up on a Friday evening, or it might be Saturday. It may even be a Sunday night. I used to actually do it on a Sunday night, just for 10 minutes, reevaluate, look at my week. Okay, what have I got on? Is there anything that I've got on this week that I don't normally have on? So you can plan around for that. Yeah,
I was the same. I used to do Sunday as well, only because I knew when Friday afternoon, I didn't do Friday night sessions. I knew when Friday afternoon finished, I just wanted nothing to do with PT, let alone doing a diary. So I would do it on Sunday for the following week. So yeah, you'd plan out your whole week, chunk your time. And I think on a day-to-day basis, just creating a simple to-do list. What are the things that need to get done today? It's amazing how just a diary and a to-do list can just organise so many people way better. You don't need all these fancy tools and apps or anything like that. just your diary and a to-do list.
I think one little piece of advice, and I've still got it, I made up my own diary, set up, but I always write it sounds a bit weird and formal for some people, I know, but I write down my top 5 goals every single day, and that's just like my the things that I'm trying to move towards. Then I write down my 3 priorities for the day, and they're the 3 things that I must get done, and I won't go to bed until those 3 things are done. Then I'll have other to-dos or calls or emails or whatever, and even if I don't get those things done, and because I've worked out that my day just didn't allow for that, that's cool. But I always get the 3 priorities done.
Yeah, I have a similar system. It's a little bit different. So I've just got in my notes in my phone. So I have my goals for the calendar year, and I just have them there, and I read them pretty much every day. And then I have non-negotiables. So these are things like 5 things that I have to do every day, no matter what, just to move forward towards my goals. And then another note, which will be the to-do list of things I've got to do for that day or that week. And I just put them in order of priority.
I think one thing that really made a massive difference to me is when I really understood the planning method. And I learned this off some top CEOs across the country and the analysis that they do on and the planning method they have. And every year I go and, I do it twice a year. And I normally go out to the bush, which is a bit odd, but I just think clear out there. And the first thing I do is I look at my annual goals. What are the things, if I could achieve these 5 things, I'd be happy with that. And I narrow it down to 5 things. There's normally like 10 or 20 things, but you just narrow it down to 5 things. And then you start working backwards and you go, okay, well, my year's split up into 4 quarters. So which one of those would I need to get in place first? Is it a domino effect? If I land this one, then that leads me into this one, which lands me into this one. And often there'll be financial goals, but financial goals normally come back to, well, for us, the amount of students that we've enrolled. And for a personal trainer, it's normally the amount of sessions or the amount of packages or the amount of, something like that. So then you go, well, what helps me to get to that point? And then you start breaking that quarter down. So you start breaking that quarter down into 3 months. Okay, what's the major outcome for month number 1 of that quarter, then month number 2, then month number 3. Then you break that first month down and you have 4 weeks in that. So, okay, if I wanted to achieve that in that month, what are the 4 or 5 most important things I can get done in that first month? And so you break your weeks down, and then you can even go as far as breaking that week down into, okay, I've got 5 days here. What are my musts? What are the things, not that I should get done, but I must get done to make that happen, or to be in a position for that monthly goal to happen? And then you start breaking it down. So it's the one thing I've learned that's made the biggest difference. That helped me go from probably, I don't know, like at some point, a couple of $100,000 a year to then starting to make a meaningful business, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it is. And then when you break it down into like what I got to get done this week, and if you just win that week or win the day, win the week, you're going to win the month, which means you're going to win the quarter. And before you know it, you go back and you go over what you've achieved for the annual year, and you've achieved all your goals.
I think, in all honesty, that the planning method, and that's the same planning method as we take our guys through on the business mentorship. There's so many small things in that, systems and a real method to structure yourself. I felt as though when I first started in business that I was energetic and I wanted to do really well, but it's almost like I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to focus on. I didn't know how to focus my time. And by understanding that's how I gained the most amount of momentum.
Yeah, well, you see trainers, they talk about how busy they are, but they're not effective at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important things that I learnt in business is separating yourself from your business financially. So when you first start, generally most of us don't have a really great financial education. It's either we've learned from our parents or even from teachers sometimes at school. And then you're left with sort of, okay, well, I don't really know how to budget. I start my business and I've got people just paying me into my own bank account with things like that. So the first thing, without a doubt, is separating, making sure that you've got a business account and then you've got your personal account. And you can always drip money into your personal account, so you can be buying your personal expenses. And then what you're doing is you're really doing bookkeeping on that one account, which is something that we go in depth with in the course. And now something that I'm really passionate about, because when I first started, I was hideous with it. It was my real weakness. And then from there, you really start to understand how to put money into separate accounts. We talk about having a security account so that if anything does pop up, you've always got the money to take care of that, whatever that challenge might be. And then what I like to call a holding account. So money that you know that you're going to be spending in the future, but you're just holding for that particular time. And tax is one of the really, the simple ones to look at. You'd be dripping a certain money out, you'd be dripping a certain amount into that account based on the advice that generally an accountant's going to give you, and then at the end of the quarter or the end of the year that that you're going to be having to pay.
Yeah, 100%. I always you got to separate the business from yourself. So you definitely got to have your business account. So I always set up as a personal account, then I'd have the business account, have the holding or tax account, and then I always had another account which would just be savings. So I'd just run a spreadsheet, and you can do it now through your bookkeeping software, and you just sit there and you work out, okay, what's profit is left over, put away the tax that you need to pay on that profit, and then I'd always put another 10% way into my savings account that I was going to invest. What was left over would go in the personal account, and that would be the spending account.
Well, it's interesting you talk the savings account. Like I teach it in the, and you've probably seen this, I teach it in the business mentorship as the goose. So whatever's left over, you drag it out and you put it into the goose. I've even got my account named as the goose, which sounds a bit corny, but it's the goose that lays the golden egg, and the golden egg is the return on your investment. So first, before you even look at investing, you need to build up a bit of a goose or a bit of an amount so that you can either invest in shares or property or whatever it might be. Now, I know you talk a little bit more about property in the business mentorship because you've got a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, and it's all off the back of PT, right?
It is, yeah, definitely. I like that name. I might change my account name to the Goose now. I think as well, when you're putting that money away for investing, it actually builds a lot of discipline too, because it's money that you're not touching. And so if you can keep your discipline not to touch that money, I think that transfers over well to a lot of other aspects to your life and your business as well. You're going to start being very disciplined with bookkeeping, with doing lead generation, doing sales calls, starting and finishing on the right time, chunking time for clients and programming. So it's funny how when you certain things in your life that you're disciplined with transfer over to other parts of your life really, really well. And you might have goals that aren't business goals. Maybe they're just personal goals that you've got. And all of a sudden you're disciplined on your personal goals as well, even if it's relationship goals, anything.
Well, they talk about every little discipline affects every other discipline. So for most of us, we know that when we're quite disciplined with our training or with our food, it helps with business or vice versa. If you're not training, then generally your food gets pretty hideous. It's the same thing in business. If you're nice and organised and you're putting your money away, then generally the business rolls pretty well as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it empowers you, doesn't it? And all of a sudden you become a goal setter. And when you become a goal setter, and then all of a sudden you start knocking off goals because you're disciplined to get there, it's amazing. It becomes addictive, isn't it? All of a sudden you want to set big goals and bigger goals and bigger goals because you're like, you know what? I'm going to set this goal, create a plan, and if I'm disciplined enough, I'm going to get there. And just even achieving a small goal can lead to the belief and the self-discipline to go a bigger goal and a bigger goal and a bigger goal. And you only ever just start small.
Well, there's something to say about momentum. Momentum is huge. Once you've got momentum and once things are working really well for you, more things just seem to go your way. The hard thing about momentum is when things aren't working, you've really got to push back. That's the time when most people go, you know what, is this for me? Versus you go, you know what, it's not working for me right now, but I'll find a way. I'll push back. It's almost like, you're pushing it back against momentum and you're turning it. And that's where most of the energy comes from. And once again, then when you have momentum on your side, more good things will come.
Yeah, and you're always going to face obstacles. So to think that you're not going to face some sort of adversity when you run anything in your life really, but in particular business, because we're talking about business, there's going to be obstacles. And they're going to come up every week. There's going to be little things that you have to do that you don't want to do, or little challenges that you're going to have. To think it's going to be smooth sailing. And like we mentioned before, that the people that have big goals and they achieve them, they're willing to fight through that and just sit there and go, okay, these are little things that I need to do along the line to get to my goal. Whereas the people that don't achieve their goals and give up easily, that's what happens. That's why new trainers, as soon as they hit a bit of adversity, give up almost straight away, and they're out of the industry. And the guys that are killing it, doing multiple figure businesses, then they're the ones that have faced adversity, gone through it, learnt from it. It's
consistency, without a doubt. And the more consistent you are, you don't even have to be consistently brilliant. You can get away with just being consistently, even like consistently average, you'll get some pretty good results, because most people just don't even do that. They go hell for leather and then nothing, hell for leather, nothing. So if you're consistently good and you just have certain standards and certain things that you stick to on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, you'll end up getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think in terms of trainers when they're first starting, it really does help if you've got a little stash of cash somewhere. Like if not everyone's in a position, and I certainly wasn't when I started. I had nothing, probably $200 or $300 in the account when I first started as a PT. But if you did have a little bit more money there, I mean, somewhere between 2 and 5 would be a great number. So if you've got 2, you've just got that little bit of money there where you can start, and even if you're not profitable, it just slowly creeps down. Now, if you've got 5, ultimately, you've got a little bit more time up your sleeve and the pressure's not on. I feel like if you're able to, for some trainers when they first start, they want to be working full time. Now, the advantage of that is you're going to have a full-time income coming in, and then you'll be probably training people in the morning, early in the morning, or in the afternoon. Now, with that though, you've probably got to give yourself a window. How long are you going to do that for? And I would suggest somewhere between 4 weeks and maybe up to 8. Why? 2 reasons. The first reason is that you've really got to want to be full-time as a PT, and the aim is going to be, if people can train at certain times, but you can't train them at that time, well, your business is actually going to grow slower. But the advantage of doing it that way, you've got cash flow coming in, but you're going to burn yourself out pretty quick. So I would suggest that, you'd be looking at trying to build your clients of a morning and of an afternoon or evening after you finish work, and maybe have that as a 4 to 6 week process before you go, you know what, I'm going to flip my full-time job and now I'm a trainer.
Yeah, and you have to know thyself as well. If you're someone that isn't, because your full-time job's a 38-hour week, if you're not someone that is willing to do an extra 10, 15 hours a week work to build your business, and you know that you go home and you just zone out and you're done for the day, maybe not the best idea.
Yeah.
However, some people are happy to do an extra 10, 15 hours a week, which is completely fine. So if you're one of those people, that's a great idea, and then you just set yourself some targets. So like you mentioned, once I hit my first $500 as a PT, I'm going to move down to part-time. And then when I hit $1,000, then I'm going to scrap the job altogether and just focus all my energy into part-time. I think you should definitely have a little bit of a buffer, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but just something to take the pressure off a little bit, that, hey, I don't have to get a client today to feed myself. Having that buffer there does help a lot. And then just how someone starts, all depends on the person. I've seen people work full-time and then spend 10 hours a week and make it work and then eventually transition. I've definitely seen a lot of trainers do part-time and then PT part-time for a while, which works pretty well. Personally, every time I've ever started, I just backed myself in like 3 different times in 3 different countries. So I just went straight in there. I had a buffer, obviously, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make this work just so I can give all my energy to it. So I think everyone's a little bit different. You just have to know what's going to best suit you. Everyone's circumstances are different as well. Some people might have family or more responsibilities and mortgages where they have to have that job and just build on the side. And some people might be younger and they don't need as much money. They can go straight into it full time. So I think it just depends on the individual. But I think the key thing is that the working full time and the doing part time on top of it will only be able to last for a couple of months maximum before you burn yourself out. And the idea of doing PT was to get you out of the job that you fucking hate anyway. So the idea is always to go to full time. So rather than trying to hang on to that security blanket for 12 months of working the other job, set yourself a target. As soon as you hit that target, get rid of the other job.
I like it. I'd like to thank Phil for coming in and joining me on the podcast today. I think hopefully, especially for new trainers and coaches out there, you've picked up a lot of good things. If you're interested in our mentorship, please let us know. We'd love to be able to help you. We'll see you soon.